Good evening, Star Wars fanatics. Thanks so much for joining us. You've reached the fanatics of film. This is Blasterpiece Theater, and my name is Ben.
My name is Alex. Thanks for joining us today, where we're here to talk about Star Wars, prequels, sequels, and anything related to the Star Wars universe. All of it.
And so, yeah, this episode is going to be kind of an interesting one. We just kind of fell on all this stuff, on all this crazy news that just barely sprung on us, and on one of my favorite people in the world, one of my favorite characters of all time, and just favorite people of all time, Mark Hamill. We've just figured out that this might be just, we might just call this the Mark Hamill episode. We're not sure yet, but just wanted to get right into kind of some of the things that's been happening. Of course, one of the biggest things that have been happening just right now, especially with this whole... But actually, before we get into the crazy stuff, we're just going to talk really quickly about some of the positives. Dude, it was so great to... I don't know if any of you guys watched the Mark Hamill, finally receiving a Hollywood star ceremony / gala, whatever it is, whatever you want to call the thing. It was really a cool time, with the exception of the main speaker. He was like the epitome of like a total nerd. That, it's like there are nerds and then there are nerds and nerds. This guy was very... I mean, he didn't belong at a podium at all anywhere. Like, he didn't belong anywhere near public speaking at all. And don't get me wrong, I love nerds all around. It was just a funny moment because he didn't... Anyway, just watch it if you haven't seen it. It's like, this guy's going to introduce George Lucas and Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford. Anyway, it was kind of a frustrating, funny moment. I just had to kind of fast forward through that. But in all, it was actually really cool seeing all the fans there supporting, and apparently it's one of the bigger star-inducing star induction ceremonies that they've seen. And of course, Harrison's like, mine was a little bit bigger. But just funny moment about that, of course, is that apparently when they were kids and when they were young little kids, little tykes doing the first Star Wars movie, Harrison's actually like, hey, I already got you beat. I have a star. So apparently there was already a Harrison Ford star up there beforehand. So it's kind of a funny moment. But did you happen to see that? Did you happen to see that thing, or?
I saw pictures. I didn't watch it. It's kind of like it's almost, what I think is that we're sorry, Mark. We didn't give you the Luke that you wanted. Here's a star.
Yeah. It is kind of a funny thing. Like, it does makes me wonder a lot of things, particularly that the fact that, of course, if any of you guys know this, like, the reason why he didn't do it is because it costs a lot of money. And that's the reason why people like some stars will do it. They'll do it right away. Like the Hunger Games people, they did it right away when they got the Hunger Games or whatever. And you get a big movie, you get your star. But it's like generally, at least from what I've read, the stars have to provide them. They have to pay for it themselves. Like, it's not just like the city of Hollywood giving it to them. It's like there's a major production involved. Like, you have to get the star made, you got plaques made, you have to get everybody else. You have to pay all the other people. You have to pay the police force. There's like firemen. There's like all they have to section off the streets. You got to sell tickets to the thing. I don't know. I'm not sure if they sold tickets, but like there's a lot of production involved in this whole thing. I mean, as opposed to I guess they could probably just do it without a ceremony, but it's like, what's the point of not kind of making a big thing about it? But the point is that it costs money. It costs money, and so I wonder if Mark had to pay for it. It does make me think, like you were saying, like, maybe what if Disney paid for it? I don't know. It makes you wonder.
Yeah, man. You never know. Because then I don't know. It's speculation. I'm holding my tongue for the exciting news that we're going to be digging into here in a second. But overall, Mark Hamill, such a classy guy. I didn't watch any of the footage. I saw the pictures, saw plenty of that. Just, man, he looks like he's having a swell life. And Luke Skywalker, the Joker, Fire Lord Ozai, he's done some sweet characters.
It was great to see him, and I wish that they did mention more of his, of course, everybody just thinks of him as Luke Skywalker, but he is extremely creative on so many levels, and just my personal opinion, I think he's cooler than Harrison Ford, so that's just me. I know that a lot of you diehard Harrison Ford fans out there, I think Harrison's awesome too. I just think Mark's maybe a little bit cooler. That's just me, just because I'm biased because I love Luke. But anyway, we're gonna move on. But he had some really cool things to say. If you get a chance to check it out, really, it was just fun to see Mark Hamill finally get that, because it's like something that's like everybody thought, oh, why doesn't he already have one? Well, it's probably because it costs money. So anyway, we were going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are actually happening that are positive in Star Wars, especially like with the live action TV series. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of things that I want to see. My number one. We're just going to do our number one picks. My number one pick, of course, is an Obi-Wan series. I think Ewan McGregor would be up for it. He had a great thing happen with Fargo. If you saw Fargo season 3, it was extraordinary. He played two brothers that were completely different from each other. They weren't even twins, and it's an amazing story. And he plays these two brothers. Ewan McGregor plays both of them, and it's an extraordinary series. If you get a chance, if you have not seen it, and you are an Obi-Wan / Ewan McGregor fan, check that season out. Anyway, he's prepared. He's prepped. He's ready to go. He can totally kick butt on an awesome Obi-Wan television series. So that's my vote for a TV series. What's yours, Alex?
The one that was in the works, I think Star Wars 311 or 411. I'm sorry, you guys probably know what I'm talking about, but about Coruscant, about the underworld, bounty hunters, maybe Boba Fett, maybe Jango Fett, maybe we could go back to the prequels. Like, that's what I want to see. That is the grimy underworld of Coruscant. Because in Rebels, I don't even know if we visited Coruscant at all.
I think you're right. The only time we've actually seen in new canon, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, at least we've seen it in some of the books, but as far as animation and film, we've only seen it in Rogue One. You see Coruscant for a brief moment when Jyn is young with her father and Krennic, and they're just hanging out in their apartment in 500 Republica, which is, I don't know if that's even canon anymore, but that's a place in whatever location in Coruscant. But anyway, that's like the only time we got to see that. So that world that we've seen in film or television stuff in that. But anyway, moving on. That's what we think. Yeah, that was just a really quick amendment on that. That whole 411 or 311, forgive me, I don't know what it's called, but I did know that was something that George Lucas has spearheaded from a while back. So he wrote a bunch of live action TV series episodes, and it never got made. And hopefully they'll pull from those, because they are still written and sitting there in a vault somewhere. And I'm sure that Filoni has read the hell out of those things. Probably, if not pulling from them right now as we speak. So anyway, we're going to move on, and we hope that Filoni takes over Lucasfilm. What about you?
How crazy would that be? We were talking about it. It's kind of a longer conversation, but imagine Dave taking over. He would do Ahsoka. He would do some Ahsoka stuff, and we all would love that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because if he did, we would see a live action Ahsoka. We would see Ahsoka in a film. Gonna move on here. Anyway, just the main thing that's of course happening right now, kind of a crazy thing. We're gonna show this video in a second. Just kind of talking about this video, kind of taken by what's the name? What are their names? Real Texas Country and SC Reviews. First, a quick shout out to SC Reviews. Great station, and two of my favorite stations right now, of course, I live in Hyperspace and SC Reviews. Two guys who are just extremely well educated and very smart guys. Very, very cool videos. If you get a chance, check those two guys out. SC Reviews and I Live in Hyperspace. But anyway, from SC Reviews, he had kind of posted this video, linked to a video, and talked about it. There was an article, basically just a transcription of this video, and we'll show this video here. But crazy, kind of a weird back and forth between Ryan and Mark, Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill. Kind of a weird thing. It was just basically what it was, is that South by Southwest film series, because we all know that there was a music series for a long time, and now they're adding a film series there, or at least have added one like 10 years ago.
Just to update you guys, in case you're having a hard time following, just because this is brand new, it was The Director and the Jedi. It was the documentary about Rian Johnson making The Last Jedi. Basically, they're at a question and answer. Rian Johnson is at a question and answer about his documentary, which is about him making The Last Jedi. That's just to catch you all up. This was just posted.
Thank you so much for this documentary. I had no idea how much work and time came into the process of making it all down to the little bitty details. It was amazing.
That's why the end credits are an hour and a half long.
My question is for you, Mr. Hamill. In the documentary, you were very vocal on your distaste for Mr. Johnson's take on your character Luke. And
It wasn't, no, it's not distaste at all.
Okay.
It's just a Luke that I didn't really understand. I mean, obviously, a lot's happened between, but I had to, like I say, make up backstories that besides picking, thinking that Kylo Ren, picking the new Hitler to be the next hope, that's on me. But there had to be more to me to justify even cutting off my telepathic communication with my sister. So, I mean, but that's my job. I mean, I'm not the one that, and there were practical things, because JJ had a much different vision for what was going to happen in 8. The first thing I said to Ryan is, I said, how are we going to explain me being in my Jedi ceremonial robes when I first meet Rey? Things like that, to make sure that, there was a flow.
And the other thing that I think is, I don't know, in the context of how this has all been framed, you have to snap your head back and remember this process happens with every single movie with characters. It's always a dialogue between the director and the actor, and that's a healthy thing. You always butt heads with the actors, yeah, absolutely. And so it is a fascinating part of this process.
Remember when I called you up when it was panic? Did they take out the floating boulders?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because when we were shooting the end of 7, JJ goes, and we'll have a couple of floating boulders to show Luke's force powers emanating from him. And I read 8 before 7 came out, so I called Ryan in a panic. I said, do you know they're going to put in floating boulders? Get them out! Because it won't match your script. Plus, I thought, oh, great, I'm going to have the force oozing out of every orifice of my body in there. I'll be knocking down ATTs like dominoes with a raising an eyebrow. And I won't even have to train that hard, because I'll just do this, and the ILM guys will put the force lightning coming out of my fingers. I trained for 12 months for 7 before I read the script. And let me tell you, I went twice a week, I was never late, and I never canceled. And I would drive to the gym. Carrie had the equipment installed in her house, and still they'd come to the door, and she goes, oh, was that today? She's so Carrie.
So
I love it.
my wording was incorrect. Maybe the best word is...
No, sorry, finish your question. Sorry, we jumped on that. I apologize.
Maybe the best word was confused.
There's a lot of feelings here.
Yeah.
No, she asked a legitimate question. No, complained about having...
Sorry, what was your question?
12 months.
It's okay. Maybe my wording was wrong. Confusion, maybe, or maybe not directly getting what Mr. Johnson was going at with Luke's version. So my question was, if you were in the director's chair, if you were writing the script, what would be your take on Luke Skywalker for this?
Oh no.
What would you do, motherfucker?
I told Ryan, I said, listen, I have lots of really terrible ideas I'd like to share with you. And maybe from 1,000 you'd find 1 or 2 you'd like. But I was no different with George. I read Return of the Jedi, I said, wait a second, I thought I was heading towards the struggle of going to the dark side. I lost a hand, I'm now dressed in black, I've got a glove, I see the trend here. But, you just have to, you're just an assistant to the chef. He comes up with the recipe, we have to cook it and hope that the audience finds it the most delicious thing they've ever tasted, and hopefully they don't go, I can't even eat this. So, I'm like a lot of you. I mean, I feel an investment in it. I feel like a certain sense of ownership, which is a joke because I don't own it. Now Disney does, but
Okay, so hopefully, anyway, I'm just curious. We're dying to know what you guys think of this. It's kind of a weird thing. Just your initial reactions when you first saw this, Alex.
My initial reaction was that, when I'm watching it, I'm thinking, Ryan, come on, dude, you're just like keeping this all about yourself. But then, okay, this is kind of his night. It's the director and the Jedi. It's a documentary about him. So I get he's trying to keep the whole conversation about him, but you can obviously tell by the question and the answer. Like, you can tell by the question of the fans, they don't care. That's not the agenda. They're asking questions like, hey, Mark, if you had the chance to direct The Last Jedi, what would you have done? And man, that whole last 15 minutes, if you get the chance to see it, I hope you saw when we put it in there. My mind is blown. JJ, my faith in my young apprentice has been restored. In the last video, I even said I was interested to see what JJ would have done. Mark Hamill, did you hear him talking about JJ's plans?
Oh yeah, we are going to come back to that just real quick before we. I'm glad you brought that up because we were going to talk about that before we even started the video. So. Yeah, in retrospect. So, yeah, and of course, they did mention, they talked about the boulders and all that, how JJ, of course, had, oh yeah, we'll have boulders floating over him, etc., kind of showing off his force abilities, or, every orifice of his body. That,
oozes the force.
Yeah. So, at least that's what, that in Mr. Hamill's words. Yeah, stuff like, that was kind of an interesting thing. But one of the things that we'll get to that in a second. But okay, so in general, my takeaway from this was just that, like, in general, like, Ryan's he's kind of pretending to be nice, or at least he's nice to the crowd, but he's not really being nice to Mark. I mean, I get it. He's just kind of supposedly messing around or whatever you want to call it, but he just doesn't really treat him with very much respect. And Mark actually does dress these things like, how come I'm not wearing the robes, and of course, they don't. That's deflected, and that is something that they don't even discuss. Like, why is he wearing Jedi robes? Like, why is he wearing Jedi robes at the end if he's completely extrapolated himself from the Force? I don't know. Or I don't know if that's the best word for it, but it exited the Force, or completely removed the Force from himself. Anyway, he talks about, like, losing his telepathy with, of course, not being able to talk with Carrie, but he kind of does, and which is, of course, when he comes back. But anyway, the main thing that was kind of funny that I was thinking of was the fact that he he had worked out for 7 months to bust his butt and work hard on and losing weight, and it's actually really great for him because it probably extended his life, probably made him live longer and just be healthier because he looks healthier, probably 10 times healthier than he did before they told him, hey, we're filming Star Wars. So kudos to that. But this does bring me right back to a Twitter conversation I was having with some die-hard Star Wars fans, and luckily we had some really good insight, and some people disagreed, but we had some really good things to say. And one of the things that I was reminded of is the fact that a lot of people think that Mark kind of sidestepped or backpedaled, etc. And he kind of did, but it was because he was under contract. He was still under contract already. So it's like he already had to do the movie, even though he hadn't read the script. So he said yes before. He and Carrie, of course, said yes before any of this. They were just like, Hope Harrison's on board and everything, but they were just like, well, we're all on board on this. And so their contracts were secured before the Disney sale. At least that's how I understand it. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I've read a lot of stuff. I've read up on a lot of this, and that's what it seems like to me has happened. And so it's kind of weird. That's the weird part about this whole thing, is that he has to kind of correct himself publicly because he bashed on the movie, or bashed on the direction of Luke Skywalker publicly, but he's had to kind of backpedal on that. But it's literally because he's under contract. He's under law. He has to finish the movie, etc. And so anyway, just this whole scene, Ryan just pretty much treats him like a kid. And I think in general that's what the movie does. The movie treats Luke Skywalker like a child. Yoda still talks to Luke like a child. Anyway, I feel like I'm talking a lot. Do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, well, and two, you're right. He kind of is treating him like a child. Mark's super classy on just like,
Yeah.
Not even nonchalant, like doesn't even faze him at all. And two, it was interesting to see how he even was like he was voicing his disconcern when he was gonna destroy the tree, and then all of a sudden Yoda shows up, and then Luke is like, "Oh no, don't destroy the tree," and then he's joking about, "Oh, you want me to be crazy and senile? Oh, I can do that." Like, he's swallowed. He's accepted it. Like, it's done and over. But he's so classy.
That's what I was saying. Like this entire video, he's literally swallowing the fact that he's got to take this in and just deal with it. I mean, he's a pro. Like has been said in for the umpteenth time. He is a total pro. He's awesome. I love Mark, and of course he's just he'll continue on. And apparently he might be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Apparently that's at least what they're talking. There's speculation, and apparently someone had mentioned it on Twitter, and so as a result, James Gunn might hire him for Guardians 3. And people are saying, "Oh, he should be like a Luke Skywalker." No, just have him be something really cool and not Luke Skywalker-esque. Just have him be. He's so talented. He could do anything. He could be an evil, crazy villain that has, spikes coming out of his head or something. I mean, he could be anything. But anyway, that's just one of the things. But yeah, the main thing that I took away from that movie is that, like, basically deflection, Ryan keeping the attention all to himself, which is fine. I mean, he directed the movie, that's fine. It's just disrespectful. Anyway, anything else you have to say about that?
Again, like, that's his opinion. At least with me, like, that night was about him. It was about his documentary. So that's cool. But it's like, dude, when the fans want to... he was definitely swatting stuff to the side. He was deflecting. He was not trying to stay what the fans were trying to find out. And we're, again, like, I'll wait for Ben to bring up the JJ thing, because that was just... And that's the end. That's the end of it. At the end of the video when we're talking about that, but...
Wait, what JJ thing? What are you talking about? Tell me.
The JJ script, talking about how when Mark was literally saying it, how he worked out for 7 months, right?
Yeah.
Number one, man, that's horrible. The whole audience laughed, ha 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 ha, but I bet that hurt inside for reals. Like, working out 7 months, like, getting fit, getting swole, and then your time comes and it was like one shot on
2
screen.
minutes.
Yeah. And two, like he was saying, when he saw JJ's, the script for the next movie, he was supposed to be uber powerful and the Force, right? He was gonna be the Luke that we were all expecting. And you know what? The Force Awakens may have been like an alright movie, but JJ's Episode 8, I hope one day that gets released, or we know what was to come, or what could have been.
I mean, JJ's Episode 8, I'm curious about it. I don't know whether I'm that curious about it, but I'm much more curious about Colin Trevorrow's Episode 9. Because apparently that the whole dynamic between Luke and Leia would have been incredible. And that's, anyway, that's another whole other story. But that's a whole other video, etc.
Right.
So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's just a short little snippet. We're just kind of talking about this kind of insanity that's happening right now. And, we respect filmmakers. We respect films. We respect anybody who likes The Last Jedi. I don't have anybody against The Last Jedi. It's a fine movie. It's not a good Star Wars movie in my personal opinion. And a lot of people have a lot of things to say about it and all these things, but honestly, I want us to come together. Fans need to be together. We need to fight and become our own rebellion. So whatever. Thanks again for listening. I hope you have a great night. And
signing out. May the Force be with you.
always.